More than 100 days have passed since Nancy Guthrie disappeared from her Catalina foothills home, and one question continues to linger over this entire investigation. Are investigators dealing with something far more dangerous than the public realizes? That question may sound dramatic at first. But when you look carefully at what is publicly known, and perhaps more importantly at what remains unknown, it becomes difficult to ignore. Most criminal investigations eventually begin to reveal a pattern. Investigators identify a suspect. A motive starts to emerge. Witnesses come forward. Physical evidence narrows the focus. Even when an arrest takes time, there is often a sense that the case is moving toward answers. The Nancy Guthrie case feels different. Months after her disappearance, many of the most important questions remain unanswered. Authorities continue investigating. Family members continue searching for answers. And members of the public continue wondering how someone could seemingly vanish under such troubling circumstances. Something keeps bothering me about this case. The longer it remains unsolved, the harder it becomes to dismiss the possibility that investigators may be facing challenges far greater than those found in an ordinary criminal investigation. To understand why, it helps to begin with what is publicly known. Nancy Guthrie, an 84-year-old woman, reportedly disappeared from her home in Arizona during the early morning hours of January 31st. According to investigators, evidence found at the scene suggested foul play may have been involved. Authorities later released surveillance footage showing a masked individual moving around the property. The images immediately captured national attention. People watched the footage repeatedly. News organizations analyzed every available detail. Online discussions exploded with theories and questions. Yet despite the intense public interest, one fact remained unchanged. The identity of the person seen in that footage was not publicly established. When you step back and look at the bigger picture, that fact alone becomes significant. Modern investigations have access to tools that did not exist decades ago. Investigators can review surveillance footage from multiple locations. They can analyze digital evidence. They can examine phone records, vehicle data, financial transactions, and countless other forms of information. And yet this case remains unsolved. That does not mean investigators have failed. Far from it. In fact, difficult cases often require far more time and resources than the public ever sees. But it does raise an important question. What exactly are investigators dealing with? Because not every criminal case presents the same level of complexity. Some cases involve suspects who make obvious mistakes. Others involve individuals who leave very little behind. Some crimes appear impulsive. Others appear deliberate. And that distinction matters. Here's what stands out. Publicly available information suggests that whoever was involved may have taken steps to avoid identification. Again, it is important to be careful here. Authorities have not publicly revealed every detail of their investigation. Many facts remain confidential. However, the available information indicates that investigators have been working through a complicated set of circumstances. That naturally leads to another question. Could preparation have played a role? Law enforcement professionals often examine whether a crime appears spontaneous or planned. Those are two very different situations. An impulsive crime may leave behind unexpected evidence. A planned crime may involve efforts to avoid detection. The exact details in Nancy Guthrie's case remain unclear. But investigators almost certainly have considered both possibilities. Think about that for a moment. If a person arrives at a location with a plan, they may already have thought about surveillance cameras, witnesses, escape routes, and other obstacles. That does not guarantee success. But it can make an investigation more challenging. And when investigations become more challenging, answers often take longer to emerge. There is another possibility worth considering. What if the danger associated with this case has less to do with one individual and more to do with what investigators still do not know? Uncertainty can be one of the most difficult parts of any investigation. When a suspect is identified, investigators have a direction. When a motive is established, investigators gain context. When neither is fully understood, every possibility remains on the table. That reality forces investigators to examine a wide range of scenarios. Could this have been a targeted incident? Could it have involved financial motives? Could it have involved someone familiar with the victim? Could there be factors that have not yet been made public? According to investigators, they continue to follow leads and evaluate evidence. And that ongoing effort suggests that important questions remain unanswered. Another reason this case continues attracting attention is because it challenges assumptions. Most people expect that high-profile investigations will quickly generate clear developments. That expectation is understandable. We live in an era where information travels instantly. News alerts appear within seconds. Video footage can spread worldwide in a matter of minutes. As a result, many people assume investigations move just as quickly. The reality is often very different. Evidence takes time to process. Witness statements must be verified. Digital records require analysis. Forensic testing can take weeks or months. Every lead must be evaluated carefully. Investigators cannot afford to rush. Mistakes made early in an investigation can create problems later. That is why patience often becomes one of the most important elements of a successful case. Unfortunately, patience can be difficult when families are waiting for answers. Something else deserves attention. Many observers focus on what investigators have said publicly. But sometimes the more important story involves what investigators have not said. Authorities routinely withhold information during active investigations. They do this for several reasons. Certain details may only be known by investigators and the person responsible. Releasing those details too early could compromise future interviews or legal proceedings. It could also encourage false confessions or misleading tips. As frustrating as that silence can be, it often serves an investigative purpose. The public may interpret silence as a lack of progress. Investigators may view it very differently. There may be evidence being analyzed. There may be leads being pursued. There may be interviews taking place that have never been discussed publicly. We simply do not know. And that uncertainty is part of what keeps this case so compelling. The deeper question may be whether investigators already possess information that significantly changes their understanding of the case. That possibility exists in nearly every major investigation. Sometimes crucial evidence is discovered long before the public learns about it. Investigators may spend weeks or months verifying information before discussing it openly. Again, there is no public confirmation that such evidence exists in this case. But it remains a possibility. And it reminds us that public knowledge and investigative knowledge are often very different things. When viewers watch updates from home, they are seeing only a small portion of the overall. When viewers watch updates from home, they are seeing only a small portion of the overall picture. Behind the scenes, investigators may be examining evidence that has never been discussed publicly. That evidence could involve digital records. It could involve forensic findings. It could involve witness information. Or it could involve something entirely unexpected. As the months have passed, one concern continues resurfacing. Why does this case still feel so difficult to explain? The circumstances surrounding Nancy Guthrie's disappearance have generated countless discussions, but many of the core questions remain exactly where they were at the beginning. Who was responsible? Why did it happen? What exactly occurred during those critical hours? And perhaps most importantly, what are investigators seeing that the public cannot? Those questions do not necessarily mean the case is more dangerous than originally believed. But they do suggest that the situation may be more complicated than many people assumed. Complex investigations often involve layers of evidence that are not immediately obvious. The public sees headlines. Investigators see timelines. The public sees uncertainty. Investigators see thousands of details that must be examined one by one. And somewhere within those details may be the answers everyone is searching for. But there is one specific aspect of this case that may shed even more light on whether investigators are dealing with a far greater threat than anyone first imagined. It involves a question about access, knowledge, and opportunity. And once you start looking closely at that question, the entire case begins to look very different. We'll examine that in the next video.